folks, MasakoX here. If you wish to catch up on this story where Cooler becomes a better person, go and watch part 1 here, or from the playlist in the pinned comment. Enjoy! When the next attack of the chromatic giant came at him, Cooler knew what to expect and managed to block the spike and bend it, using his strength. Then he lashed at Gas with his head tails. Unexpectedly, his opponent had quickly reassembled the weapon into being more sword-like, and sliced a big piece of one of those tails, causing one of the barbs to fall on the floor. It was painful. The Emperor went for a powerful punch, but it didn't even leave a dent on the armor that the Heater was wearing, or to be more precise, was encased with. He considered if he could realistically start a chain reaction to blow the big Getaster up, but with his comms being jammed right now, he wouldn't be able to warn his troops in time and prompt them to evacuate. But he wasn't giving up yet. He survived the likes of Cell and Majin Buu, defeated the king of the demon realm. He wasn't here to be a punching bag. He just had to be smart about it. Still, it was hard to be smart when the sword arm quickly transformed into that large spike and stabbed him again. Despite its size, Metal Gas was still fast, maybe even faster than Cooler himself. Elec seemed like he was enjoying himself watching this spectacle through the surveillance monitors. Every time his brother was able to draw some blood from the Emperor, he clapped. Well, Lord Cooler, don't worry. If you don't do anything stupid, we will keep you alive. I'm sure that the Star can get some really interesting intel out of that head of yours. I heard rumors that we can sever it and you can still function. Care to find out for us, Gas? Hearing this, his sibling transformed the arm into a giant axe and started to swing it around, way too close for Cooler's comfort. The Emperor had to go more on the offensive than ever, so in a counterintuitive way, he charged toward the axe and deflected the arm with his tail. Then he headbutted Gas's face mask. It left a minuscule crack that quickly started to heal over. How he hated regenerating enemies. Still, this left a mark, and seeing that the Heater got a little dizzy after the strike, he was quite sure that his organic head, or at least brain, was still in there. He continued the assault with an I-beam toward the cracked faceplate, which attempted to quickly self-repair. A smell of burnt metal and flesh was heard, as Cooler caught a glimpse of blue skin underneath. Still, the very walls of the big Getaster itself started to disassemble in order for Gas to repair. So the smartest idea would be to take him out of the picture in the first place, away from here. That's why they wanted to start the fight here. Well, the question was, would he be able to defeat Elec's main weapon where it was its strongest? Or do what he can to get them to move elsewhere? He reacted quickly by catching Gas by the face and plummeting him through the floor, breaking through 2 levels of ship's decks. Unfortunately, the axe arm caught him on the Heater's way down and made a deep cut in his side. The purple blood splattered the nearby wall and Cooler hissed in pain, but he decided to push further, to break through more layers, to take Gas away from here, out of his comfort zone. He was focusing all of his attacks on the face mask to force every regeneration effort into protecting his head. As they were getting closer and closer to the outer extremes, it seemed that the Heater had caught on to his plan and formed enormous claws to try and stop the onslaught. He slashed the Emperor a few times, breaking his momentum, starting to push him back into the heart of the star. In response, Cooler used his own energy to cause a shockwave that broke some of the claw. Gas's arm immediately became a large maul, which he used to strike at his opponent, who had to use a lot of strength to stop it happening. I'm quite impressed, Gas. I see that you have taken this upgrade thing pretty seriously. As a former user of mechanical prosthetics, I have to admit, you are indeed pushing the boundaries. No response. Few opponents have managed to push me to such extremes. You might consider yourself to be lucky, he said, wrestling with the maul and using the remaining head tails and the proper tail to keep his other arm away. Still no response. Elec decided to chime in through the silence. That's right. As you can see, my brother has embraced what you have foolishly abandoned, and now you can see the results for yourself. Isn't that what he can do so glorious? Shut up, Elec. I am talking to Gas, not you. Cooler's red glowing eyes were looking at the mechanical, unmoving face mask of the former Heater. There was still no response, but there was a sign of movement, maybe irritation. Do you allow him to make all your decisions for you? Are you even in there? The Emperor wasn't breaking eye contact. In response, the other hand, the one that wasn't the Maw, quickly became a spike, piercing through. I will take that as a yes. Well done, Gas. Now get on with it. Finish your job, Elec smiled widely. You know, I do know one thing or two about crappy siblings. My brother and I weren't exactly on good terms, and I also know a thing or two about being used by your own family. Gas seemed to be irritated, angered by even such a notion, and he decided to go for a full-blown strike with his hammer arm. But suddenly, Cooler did something that completely shocked him, threw him for a loop. He grabbed the spike arm and impaled himself even further to get closer to his opponent. I can help you, he whispered, and shot the eye beams at Gas, blinding him for a moment. As the enemy was attached to him, it was hard for the Heater to dodge, and the Emperor started to bombard him with powerful strikes, some of them making dents. What are you doing, Gas? Finish it! Finish! Elec was getting annoyed. I could have taken this place down with a single attack, and yet I do not want to. The only reason we have this brawl is because I don't want to take down my subjects with me. They are counting on me. Do you understand the concept? I'm pretty sure you do. Loyalty is what fuels you, but your loyalty, Cooler grabbed Gas's neck with his tail, is extremely one-sided. He doesn't care about you or any of your siblings. You are just a weapon, a means to an end. Trust me, I have been there with my father. Elec is not worth your loyalty. Cooler continued to speak silently right into Gas's ear. His maul arm quickly transformed into an axe as he submerged it into his pauldron. I can literally power up and charge us both into the nearest star. We would just have to wait which one melts first, but I am not doing it. I can end it, Gas, but instead, I want to show you something. Humor me. Do something that Elec doesn't like. I just want to prove you something. There was a moment of silence, and Gas reluctantly removed the axe from Cooler's arm. The Emperor, meanwhile, wrestled out of the spike, leaving a huge gaping wound in his stomach. I am losing a lot of blood right now, but I am still not done. Gas, is your brain damaged in that chrome dome? Finish the fight! I think you broke something. Give me manual control! Elec was looking at the ceiling, as if he was speaking to the star itself. Gas's eyes widened as something tried to enforce its will upon him. The electric jolts were going through his head. It caused him agony.
Hey, Elec, knock it off, it hurts him!
Maki snarled at her brother. Yeah, he's winning! Why are you doing that to him? Oil chimed in. Shut up, both of you! We cannot take any risks. The leader of the Heaters pulled the control helmet onto his head. See, I told you. Fight him, Gas, fight him. You are stronger. The only reason he needs you is that he is the weakest of all of you. Cooler looked at his opponent. Gas's weapon's hand became normal palms as he held his head. Cooler could hear a guttural yell.
What's happening?
Maki yelled. He is literally melting his brain. If you want to do something, do it now! The Emperor shrieked that last bird toward the screen. In a quick, impulsive moment, the only sister of the Heater siblings changed her hand to a keyblade and pierced it through the backside of Elec's throne, so it went through his chest. The eldest brother's eyes widened as in his last moments, he felt a warm pain in his heart. Then he slid out of the throne.
No, Elec, what have I done?
Maki shrieked. You did the reasonable thing, girl. Now one of you put that helmet on before... Cooler started, but suddenly Gas stopped moving. Before what? Oil seemed scared. Everything went eerily silent. Before the star itself takes control. There was no living spark in Metal Gas's eyes anymore, as it was replaced by a red shine. The The Cyclopeans were also back. As they started to swarm Cooler, someone started to attack them from the other side. It was Salza. While still weakened, he wasn't giving up without a fight. Metal Gas, meanwhile, charged upon the Emperor with the cold and emotionless conviction of a machine. While Oil and Maki were wrestling with Elec's corpse, Kikuno and Berry Blue appeared in their position. All right, ceasefire, heaters! Let my scientist access the throne, and I promise that I will get you all out alive. What will happen with Gas? Will you rescue him? Maki yelled. The Emperor looked at the killer machine that was trying to destroy him and sighed. I will try. Kikuno, try that blasted jamming thing and get it off. As you wish, my lord. It took some time and wrestling with Metal Gas, but finally both Salza and the Emperor could hear the comms. My lord, good to hear you. We have the civilians and soldiers secured. What are your orders? Ensign Palm asked. Very good. Get to them and lead the evacuation. Kikuno, Berry Blue, heaters, get to one of our ships. But Monsieur Cooler, the Brenchian tried to protest. They need someone to coordinate them. This is an order, Commander. Now do it. Yes, Monsieur. Good luck. Salza saluted, and trying to avoid the Cyclopeans, went into the core to grab Berry Blue and Kikuno, with the heaters following in their stead. Meanwhile, Cooler had to reverse to his fifth form, as blood was pouring from all of the wounds dealt by Gas. I guess we shall stick with the classics. The machine felt no fear, and was very relentless. For now, the Emperor was on the defensive, waiting for a signal from his men. When he was informed that everyone had departed the big Geta star safely, he grabbed Metal Gas by the waist and charged all his remaining power in getting to the very heart of the star. They were breaking through walls, layer by layer, and finally they saw something that resembled, well, a reactor. Metal Gas turned both his arms into spikes and impaled his hand into the ground, with the other one being ready to go through his helmet right into his cranium. But everyone was far away from the blast zone, so Cooler had no means to hold back. He had no resort. With his free hand, he blasted a powerful death ball into the core, the last one he had in him. He could hear an angry roar as the big Geta star itself was yelling in pain. His opponent looked confused for a second, so he broke the spike arm holding him down and knocked Metal Gas down. The chain reaction caused a series of explosions to be had, and soon, those who were in the ships on the orbit around the big Geta star saw it collapsing in on itself, and then exploding in a giant flash, a supernova. As it happened, all the drones, Cyclopeans, and ships around them that were previously controlled by the star became inert. Observing the whole thing from the evacuation vessel, Salza gasped. Cooler! That was a sizable blast, no doubts about it, Kikuno added. That's not helpful, you big-headed mook. Our brother was on board! Maki screamed at the little scientist. I'm just trying to... Kikuno went on the defensive. All of you, be silent, Berry Blue said calmly, and observe. Huh? Oil turned his head toward the source of the explosion. Amongst the junk and the debris, there were two figures. Well, sort of. Cooler looked very much like he had seen better days, in his fourth form, but most of his bio-armor was missing, with wounds showing up his purple flesh. He was, however, holding someone unconscious. It seemed like a child-sized person, blue-skinned, missing all of his limbs. As he arrived at the evacuation vessel, he placed Gas gently on a medical stretcher that was prepared for the many wounded. When the remaining two heaters looked at their brother, they gasped in horror, as not only his limbs were missing, but also his mouth was permanently closed with a metal plate. Elec didn't really want him to speak his mind after all, Cooler added. As I said, nothing good comes from families. So what are we doing with him, my lord? The accomplices of the big Geta stir! Salza pointed at Oil and Maki, who suddenly began to panic. Well, in the end, they were rather useful, weren't they? I want you three to have an eye on them and find a new use for them within my empire. If they attempt to betray us, I will deal with them personally. Is that clear? Yes, of course! The two heaters saluted reluctantly. Very well. And now, forgive me. I think I need to rest, said Cooler, sitting on the ground taking a heavy breath, desperately trying not to look like he was about to faint. Still, this was a good time to sleep. He was quite happy with himself. And things slowly began to return to normal. The Empire started to rebuild, and as it turned out, Oil and Maki used some of the ideas of Elec to aid in the initiative of housing improvement on all of the member planets. Moreover, Cooler had declared Nogame as a natural preserved world and put it under his personal protection. Gas, meanwhile, was taken under a lengthy and hard hospitalization session, but in his generosity, the Emperor allowed him to use the same technology that helped him regain his own limbs. He also talked with Salza about allowing Gas into the future iteration of his armored squadron. A few years later, the Empire had flourished, and it seemed that they would be going toward a new golden age. But one day, unusually agitated, Berry Blue entered Cooler's throne room.
My lord, you have guests,
she uttered. It was very weird to see her nervous like this. Calm down, Berry Blue. Tell me, what's going on? The voice that he then heard after was an unexpected one. It sent a chill down his spine. Well. Who would have thought about this happening after all? You pick up well from the family business, eh, Cooler? That is a surprise indeed, Lord Beerus, but you must admit, things look much nicer around here with him in charge, said the second voice. Maybe so. Hey, Cooler, Whis and I, we're hungry, so I don't suppose you have your best cooks on hand to prepare a meal worthy of a god? Indeed, a god was standing before him and had no intention of leaving. And that's where we're going to be leaving things as we end Act 6.